Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into 6 quarters that might surprise you with how valuable they really are. What makes these coins special isn't just that they're hard to find, but that top quality examples have reached prices most people would never expect. A single quarter, shining bright, perfectly struck, and free from scratches, can sell for far more than its face value, sometimes into the thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. Understanding why these coins survived, how they were made, and why so few remain is the key to seeing their real worth. Let's get started. First up is the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter. Millions of people use this coin without realizing that the rarest examples can bring astonishing prices. While it looks like a normal state quarter to most, a tiny number of well-preserved coins have sold for amounts that catch even seasoned collectors off guard. Some have reached 6 figures, making it one of the most surprising coins in the early state quarter series. The story of the 1999 Pennsylvania quarter begins during an important time in American coinage. That year, the United States Mint launched the state quarter program, the biggest coin release in decades. Everyone was excited, the economy was strong, and the Mint had to produce huge numbers of coins quickly. Machines ran almost non-stop. In Philadelphia alone, hundreds of millions of Pennsylvania quarters were struck in a short period, leaving very few chances for collectors to save new, untouched coins. Because production was rushed, many coins came out with weak details or softer edges. The dies wore down fast, so Washington's portrait on the front sometimes looked flat, and the Pennsylvania design on the back could appear dull. Once released, the coins were packed in large bags, bounced through counting machines, and then spent in everyday use, picking up scratches, nicks, and wear. The design itself is packed with details. On the front, there's George Washington's familiar portrait. On the back, you'll see the outline of Pennsylvania, a female figure representing the Commonwealth, and the Keystone emblem. These elements were meant to be crisp, but with high-speed production and heavy circulation, many coins lost their sharpness quickly. That's why most 1999 Pennsylvania quarters look worn, dull, or ordinary today. Despite the huge mintage, the few coins that escaped circulation remain highly prized. A rare coin with full shine, sharp details, and untouched surfaces becomes a collector's dream. These top examples are why the 1999 Pennsylvania quarter has stunned the numismatic world. One of the finest certified coins, sold at auction for over $80,000, thanks to nearly flawless surfaces, bold strikes, and original luster. Experts say that if a completely perfect MS70 were ever certified, it could easily surpass $100,000. For a year known for rushed production, a flawless example would be extraordinary. There might even be one hiding in a long-forgotten collection, waiting to be discovered. Errors add another layer of excitement and value. Some 1999 quarters have off-center strikes, wrong plankets, or doubled designs. These mistakes can fetch $40,000 or more because they show what happens when the mint is under pressure. Coins with visible errors are like a glimpse behind the scenes of production during a hectic year. Collectors chase these coins because rarity is everything. Millions of ordinary coins exist, but when only a few survive in perfect condition or an unusual error appears, they become highly desirable. The 1999 Pennsylvania quarter also carries nostalgia. It was the first year of the state quarter program. Many collectors remember the excitement of the series, which makes these coins even more appealing. Auction results show how powerful this combination of rarity and nostalgia can be. The 6-figure prices prove that collectors will pay for quality, scarcity, and historical significance. Even mid-grade errors from this year have sold for unexpected amounts, highlighting how chaotic production could be. The takeaway is simple: never overlook a coin just because it looks ordinary. Even a 1999 state quarter could be a hidden treasure. A coin with the right features, perfect luster, strong strike, or a mint error could already be in a roll of change, a coffee can, or an old box of coins, waiting to be recognized. Next, we're diving into a coin that most people have seen countless times without ever thinking twice about it, the 2001 New York State Quarter. At first glance, it might look worn, scratched, or just plain dirty from decades of circulation, but hidden beneath the grime could be a coin worth far more than you ever imagined. Could a humble pocket quarter really fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars? Let's find out. The story of this New York quarter begins during a remarkable year in American history. 2001 was the third year of the state quarter program, a project that captured the nation's imagination. Millions of Americans eagerly collected the new designs, while the country faced sudden challenges and uncertainty in the wake of September 11th. During that time, demand for coins shot up, and the Philadelphia Mint had to work at full speed to produce enough quarters to keep banks, businesses, and the public supplied. Because of the rush, the Mint struck enormous numbers of coins. Machines ran non-stop, dropping freshly minted quarters into bins that jostled together. Then they were packed in bags, counted, shipped, and eventually spent. Most 2001p New York quarters were handled and scratched almost immediately. Dirt darkened the surfaces, vending machines left tiny marks, and coins rubbed against each other during sorting. That's why finding one with original shine and crisp details today is extremely rare. The design of this coin tells a story in itself. On the front, we see the familiar portrait of George Washington, calm and dignified. On the reverse, the Statue of Liberty rises proudly, framed by the outline of New York State, and a path of stars marking the state's entry into the Union. Every fold of Liberty's robe, every ridge on the torch, and every line in the state outline is supposed to be sharp and clear, but during the high-speed production of 2001, many of these details came out soft. Circulation wore them down even more, leaving millions of quarters looking dull and lifeless today. Because so many were made, the average 2001p New York quarter is extremely common. Most are worth nothing more than face value. But here's where it gets interesting. A very small number of these quarters escaped circulation and survived in near-perfect condition. These rare survivors show strong details, clean surfaces, and a brightness that almost seems impossible. And how many coins were struck that year? Collectors prize these exceptional examples because they tell a story of survival. Some quarters avoided scratches, stayed out of machines, and never touched pocket lint or coin trays. They preserved the crispness of Liberty's torch, the folds of her gown, and the sharp edges of the state outline. When one of these coins comes to a professional grading service, it instantly becomes the center of attention. In fact, one of the finest graded examples of the 2001p New York quarter sold for over $110,000. That's right, more than $250,000 for a coin that looks ordinary to most people. Its surfaces were almost flawless, the strike strong, and the luster nearly untouched despite the challenging production environment. Experts say that a truly perfect MS70 example could easily surpass $150,000 or more. Imagine finding a coin like that tucked away in a drawer or jar at home. But condition isn't the only factor driving collectors. The 2001p New York quarter also has several dramatic mint errors that make certain coins especially valuable. Some were struck off-center, leaving Liberty leaning far to one side. Others landed on the wrong type of planchette, creating an unusual color or weight. A few even show doubling on the lettering or Liberty's torch, giving the coin a distinct, eye-catching appearance. These bold mistakes are rare, and collectors pay top dollar for them. Major mint errors from 2001 can sell for $78,000 or more, depending on condition and visibility. Why do collectors chase these coins so eagerly? It's simple. Rarity is everything. When millions of ordinary coins exist, they hold little value. But a handful of surviving coins in excellent shape or coins with unusual errors become treasures. The 2001p New York quarter also carries a story. It reflects the challenges the mint faced during a fast-paced year in America, showing how small production mistakes can turn a common coin into something extraordinary. So, what's the lesson here? Never ignore a quarter just because it looks old, scratched, or dark. Sometimes, the most valuable coins are hiding in plain sight. Even a dirty, worn coin could have a rare strike, a special error, or exceptional detail that makes it worth a fortune. A single 2001p New York quarter could easily be the most important coin in your collection without you ever realizing it. If you're building a set of the most collectible state quarters, keep an eye out for this one. And if you find a 2001p New York in a jar, drawer, or old coin roll, take a closer look. Check the details, the strike, and the surface. You might be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, a piece of history that survived the wear and tear of everyday life to become a modern treasure. Next up, we move to the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter, a coin that many people have seen hundreds of times without ever realizing it could be worth far more than anyone expects. And the surprising part is that even coins in old, worn, dark, or dirty condition can still hold secrets that collectors love. At first glance, this Kentucky quarter may look like just another common piece of pocket change, but if you look closer, this coin has a history and a story that set it apart from millions of others. The 2001 Kentucky quarter was struck during a year when the United States was going through major changes. The early 2000s economy was slowing down, technology was shifting quickly, and Americans were adjusting to a world that felt different from just a few years before. But through all of that change, the state quarter program was still going strong and exciting collectors everywhere. By 2001, millions of people were searching their change daily, hoping to complete their sets. Kentucky's quarter was one of the most anticipated releases of the year because it celebrated a rich slice of American history, one built on tradition, state pride, and a well-known symbol of national identity. The design on the Kentucky quarter is one of the most detailed in the entire state quarter series. The reverse shows the famous Federal Hill Mansion, better known as my old Kentucky home, standing behind a detailed wooden fence. In front of the fence is a racehorse, its head lifted proudly above the rails, honoring Kentucky's timeless connection to American horse racing. The state outline sits behind the scene, creating a layered design full of texture and depth. Capturing all these details, especially the wood grain in the fence and the horse's facial features, requires a strong, clean strike. On the obverse, the familiar portrait of George Washington appears, but even here, small details matter. The hair curls, the eye shape, the date, and the mint mark must all be sharp and clear for a coin to achieve a top grade. Many 2001 quarters show wear, faint scratches, and dull-looking surfaces, especially after years of moving through circulation. And that's exactly what makes high-grade examples so hard to find, and so incredibly valuable when they show up. The Denver Mint struck millions of Kentucky quarters. In fact, the mintage was so high that most examples today are still worth only their face value. Many coins spent decades inside vending machines, cash registers, and pockets where they picked up dents and marks. That's why so many 2001 quarters look old and tired today. Dark surfaces, worn edges, small nicks, and weakened details are extremely common. Most of these coins don't attract any interest from collectors at all. But hidden among those millions are a few that survived in conditions few people ever expected. Some were saved in rolls that sat untouched for years. Others were forgotten in drawers and pulled out only recently, still holding their original shine. And then there are the rarest of all, the error coins, the missed pieces, the coins with doubled features or off-center designs that can jump in value instantly. Collectors want the Kentucky quarter for several reasons. First, its design is one of the most artistic in the entire series. Second, high-grade examples are extremely difficult to locate. But the biggest reason is that rare mistakes from this year can be worth shocking amounts of money. A strong double die on the horse, the fence, or the lettering can send a collector into a bidding frenzy. Even like die shifts, extra metal, or an unusually sharp strike can put a coin in a completely different price category. Auction results for the 2001 Kentucky quarter have reached levels most people would never expect. One of the finest graded examples ever found a coin with perfect surfaces and every line of the design fully visible sold for over $120,000 at a major auction. Its shine, its detail, and its lack of marks made it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, but that's not the highest potential. Experts believe that a truly perfect grade, a dream-level MS-70 example, could reach $150,000 or more, simply because none have ever been found in flawless condition. The small chance of discovering one keeps collectors searching every day. Error coins tell an even more surprising story. A major off-center strike or a strong double die has already brought prices around $80,000, even when found on a coin that looked dark, worn, or scratched. In extreme cases, errors can make a coin worth more than even the highest-graded normal example. And that leads us to the real lesson of the Kentucky quarter. Never ignore an old, dirty, or ugly coin. Sometimes the best treasures don't look perfect. The most valuable coins are often the ones that survived by accident, or the ones struck with an unusual mistake that was never meant to happen. That worn old quarter sitting in a jar or drawer might have a rare die crack, a doubled feature, or a faint, but valuable strike error that changes its value completely. Next up, we're diving into a coin that you've probably seen dozens of times without a second thought, the 2000p Virginia State Quarter. At first glance, it might seem like an ordinary quarter, perhaps even a little dark, worn, or scratched from years of use. But what if I told you that hidden among these millions of coins are a few rare survivors and unexpected errors that can fetch prices collectors never imagined? Could a quarter that looks ordinary actually be worth a small fortune? Let's explore. The year 2000 was an exciting time in America. The country had just entered a new millennium, the economy was strong, and people were thrilled by the state quarter program, now in its second year. Millions of collectors were eagerly chasing the new state designs, hoping to add the freshest coins to their albums. The U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure to produce enough quarters to keep up with demand from banks, businesses, and vending companies. With machines running nearly non-stop, the Mint had little time to pause and inspect every single coin. As a result, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of Virginia quarters that year. Most of these coins went straight into circulation, bouncing through coin counting machines, cash registers, parking meters, and countless hands. By the time they reached collectors, or even found their way into pocket change, the surfaces were already scratched, dulled, and worn. Did you know that these harsh conditions meant that the vast majority of 2000p Virginia quarters today are completely ordinary and worth just their face value? The design of the Virginia quarter is fascinating. On the front, you'll see the familiar right-facing portrait of George Washington, a design that has endured for decades. On the reverse, 3 ships from the Jamestown settlement, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery are depicted in remarkable detail. Each ship has intricate lines for the sails and masts, which need a sharp strike to show properly. Under the rush of production in 2000, many coins came out with softer details. Some of the lines on the ships were faint, and the edges of the state outline could appear blurred. As these coins circulated, the details faded even more, leaving many quarters looking dark, worn, or just plain tired. Even the obverse faced challenges, the dies used to strike Washington's portrait, wore down quickly under heavy demand. This often led to dull surfaces, soft hair details, and letters that weren't fully sharp, especially in the word Liberty. It's a detail that many people overlook, but to collectors, this is crucial. A coin that escaped these imperfections, remaining crisp and clean, becomes far more valuable than a million ordinary examples. Now, let's talk numbers. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of Virginia quarters in 2000, which is why most are so common. Millions survived in everyday circulation, but only a tiny number were protected or collected immediately. These rare survivors, known as high-grade examples, are the ones collectors dream about. Could you imagine finding a coin in nearly perfect condition among all that heavy circulation? That's exactly what makes some 2000p Virginia quarters so special. What really sets the valuable Virginia quarters apart? A few coins escaped the wear and tear that affected almost all others. These coins still show bright original luster, strong detail on the Jamestown ships, and smooth fields free from scratches or marks. Some were tucked away in bank rolls, while others were saved by collectors who wanted a pristine version of every new state quarter. When one of these coins goes to a professional grading service, it immediately attracts attention. One of the finest known 2000p Virginia quarters sold for more than $125,000 at auction. Can you picture that? A single quarter, nearly untouched, with bold ship details and a flawless surface, fetching a price that most collectors could only dream about. Experts suggest that if a completely perfect MS-70 coin were ever certified, meaning no marks under magnification, it could easily surpass $110,000. The high production numbers and long circulation make finding such a survivor extremely rare, which is why collectors chase them so fiercely. But condition isn't the only factor. Some 2000p Virginia quarters display striking errors that further increase their value. Because the mint was working under such pressure, mistakes occasionally occurred. Some coins were struck off-center, others ended up on the wrong metal planchette, and a few showed doubling on the ship details or letters. These errors give collectors a glimpse into the chaos behind the scenes at the mint, and they can drive auction prices even higher. A dramatic mint error on this coin can easily fetch $69,000 or more, depending on condition and clarity. So why do collectors care so much about these rare quarters? It all comes down to scarcity. Millions of coins exist from 2000, but only a tiny fraction survived with bright luster, sharp details, or unique mint errors. That combination of rarity and historical significance makes these quarters highly desirable. Even a worn, dirty, or scratched coin might hide an error or unusual detail that turns it into a treasure. Here's the collector lesson. Never judge a coin by its outward appearance. Even a dull or damaged quarter might hold something extraordinary. Look closely at the details, the crispness of the ships, the strength of Washington's portrait, or any unusual errors. These are the clues that could reveal a high-value coin. Imagine digging through a jar of coins and discovering one of these rare survivors hiding among ordinary change. It's a thrilling moment, and it's why collectors keep searching through old rolls, forgotten drawers, and inherited coin collections. The 2000p Virginia quarter teaches us that history, rarity, and careful observation can turn a simple coin into something priceless. A coin that may have started as just another piece of pocket change can become a story, a treasure, and a piece of history worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, the next time you hold a Virginia quarter, ask yourself, could this ordinary-looking coin be hiding something extraordinary? Next up, we're diving into a coin that looks simple at first glance, almost ordinary, almost forgettable. Until you realize what hides beneath its quiet cowboy silhouette. And trust me, you're about to feel that little jolt in your chest, that wait. What? Moment that every collector dreams about. Because the 2007 Wyoming State Quarter with the P Mint mark, even one with scratches, can take you down a rabbit hole of history, mystery, and jaw-dropping value that most folks never even see coming. Picture this, it's 2007. You're standing at a gas station counter, maybe grabbing a coffee or paying for fuel. The clerk hands you change, and you don't even look twice. Because one of those coins, one of those little metal discs you slid right into your pocket, might have been the very Wyoming quarter we're talking about right now. And today, that same coin you might have ignored could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. Sometimes more than a house, and in the rarest cases, more than some folks' entire retirement fund. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a quiet moment with this coin. Hold it in your mind. A simple cowboy on a bucking bronco, clean, open space, almost empty compared to other busy state quarters. And that's the magic. That open field design from artist Norman Namath makes every flaw scream under magnification. Every crack, every die break, every strike through, every clipped edge, it stands out like a lightning bolt across a clear sky. And collectors love nothing more than a coin where errors show themselves boldly, unapologetically. So let's begin the journey. At first glance, your 2007 Wyoming P quarter with scratches might look like pocket change. Just another piece from the Philadelphia Mint, one of hundreds of millions, but here's where things get wild. Because some of these coins, especially the messy ones, the flawed ones, the ones with strange marks that look accidental, well, those might be the ones hiding secrets. Let's start with the raw history. Because for a lot of folks watching, especially those of you who grew up when coins meant something, this takes you back. Wyoming's design wasn't just another state stamp. It honored the long, rugged cowboy culture of the West. These coins rolled out in high numbers, sure, but because the design is so simple, Mint struggled with clean strikes. Weak impressions, missing details, strange lines running across the flat background. And that's where the real stories begin. Collectors discovered everything from light strike errors to full-blown die breaks that looked like cracks ripping straight across the cowboy's leg. There were misaligned dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes where the rim vanished entirely, and the extremely rare double die versions, where the letters, the equality state, show a faint shadowy doubling. Some collectors even uncovered coins with mysterious repeating scratches that matched marks left by damaged dies. Yes, scratches that might look like ordinary wear could actually be from the mint itself, and if those scratches came from the die, you're suddenly holding the equivalent of a VIP backstage pass to the minting process gone wrong. But let's build the anticipation slowly, because I want you to feel that moment when the value hits. I want you to feel the surprise in your chest when you realize something otherwise overlooked could make your heart skip. Now imagine this coin in 3 different lives. First, the most common life, the circulated version. A Wyoming pea quarter that's been tossed from drawer to drawer, bumped around in pockets, maybe even rattled in the cup holder of a truck on a summer highway through the Rockies. It's got scratches, sure, but if they're normal scratches, just everyday wear, collectors won't pay much. Maybe a few dollars, maybe 10, maybe 20 if it has a minor mint anomaly. But if those scratches are from a damaged die, if they line up in ways that reveal mint machinery grinding or dragging across the die face, that changes everything. A circulated Wyoming pea with genuine die gouge markings can rocket into the hundreds, then the thousands. And in extreme cases, those shocking, headline-making finds into the tens of thousands. That's right, a B-top quarter, worth more than a brand new motorcycle. But we're only warming up. Now picture the second life. A crisp, fresh uncirculated Wyoming quarter. The kind that still flashes like a mirror when you tilt it under the light. Those are the coins collectors scramble for, especially from the Philadelphia Mint, where strike issues were common. A perfectly clean, sharp Wyoming pea quarter in uncirculated condition. That's a few $100s already. But add a dramatic mint error, maybe a full die break across the Bronco, or a double die so clean you can see the shadow letters dance. That's where things leap. You're looking at tens of thousands. Sometimes high 5 figures. And in one notable case, a Wyoming state quarter error pulled in 6 figures at a private sale. And yes, we're going even higher than that. Because the third life, the rare error life, is where legends are born. The kinds of coins that end up on the front page of collector magazines. The kinds that make older collectors stop in their tracks, lean in, and whisper, "No way." Imagine a Wyoming quarter that was double struck off-center so that part of the cowboy is missing, floating almost ghost-like across the surface. Imagine a coin with a massive interior die break, something we call a cud, right across the horse's back. Imagine the fields covered in mint-caused gouges that almost look like claw marks across the coin surface. These are the coins that auctioneers love, the ones that spark bidding wars. And in the most extreme conditions, the rarest of the rare. A flawless, high-grade Wyoming quarter with a dramatic mint error can pass the $170,000 mark. And if the error is unique, if it's a one-of-one die disaster, the price climbs even higher. High 6 figures, sometimes knocking on the door of 7. Life-changing money born from a 25-cent piece most people would never give a second glance. That's why this coin is so special. Because it teaches a lesson that resonates deeply, especially with the older audience who remembers when things were made with care. It shows how even in mass production, something extraordinary can slip through. A mistake becomes a treasure, a flaw becomes a doorway. A simple quarter becomes a piece of American history worth more than gold. And here's the twist that hits hardest. Every single scratched Wyoming pea quarter has a story. The question is whether the scratches came from someone's pocket or from the mint itself. And that mystery keeps collectors checking, comparing, holding coins under bright lamps well into the night. Because if those lines were made in Philadelphia before the coin ever touched a human hand, you might be staring at your own once-in-a-lifetime rarity. So as we move on to the next coin in our journey, one that climbs even higher in value, take a breath. Hold this moment and ask yourself, how many treasures have passed through your hands without you knowing? Because the Wyoming quarter shows us something electrifying. Sometimes the biggest value hides in the quietest design. And sometimes the smallest coin carries the loudest secret. Now get ready, because the next coin, the next one, goes even higher, even rarer, even more unbelievable. And trust me, you won't want to blink. And now, here we are, the grand finale. The last coin in our top 6 state quarter countdown. And trust me, this one doesn't just end the series, it lifts it off the ground. Because this coin doesn't celebrate a state bird, or a mountain, or a cowboy, or some quiet little detail in history. No, this one celebrates the moment human beings broke free from the earth and touched the sky. The 2002 Ohio State quarter with the D mint mark. In brilliant, uncirculated condition. Just saying, it sends a little spark down your spine. Because this coin, this shiny sliver of American metal, has turned out to be one of the most surprising powerhouses in the entire State Quarter series. A coin so packed with history, so loaded with unexpected mint errors, and so shockingly valuable in the right condition, that even seasoned collectors have had to sit back and say, okay, I did not see that coming. Let's ease into this one slowly, because I want you to feel the slow lift of excitement, just the way the Wright brothers must have felt when that first flyer rattled down the sands of Kitty Hawk. Picture it. The design, the state outline, the Wright flyer, and those calm, almost eerie figures standing beneath. A design that looks simple enough, until you remember that in 2002, the Denver Mint was running hot. Too hot, machines running non-stop, dies wearing out faster than expected, pressure issues, alignment problems, thousands of coins rolling out every minute. And sometimes, the machinery just couldn't keep up. And that's exactly where the magic, the rare, auction-stopping magic begins. Your coin's uncirculated condition matters more than you can imagine. Because an uncirculated surface tells the truth. It exposes every secret, every doubling, every faint die line, every metal blister, every crack, every flaw, every impossible to miss factory error that transforms a 25-cent coin into a 5-figure, 6-figure, sometimes life-changing piece of treasure. And oh, the Ohio quarter. It had errors. Collectors found doubling on the Wright flyer wings. They found thick, raised die gouges around the state outline. They found huge die cracks running across the fields like lightning strikes frozen in metal. They found uncentered strikes where the flyer drifts off balance. They found coins that were double struck, triple struck, and one legendary specimen that appears as if the entire state outline is melting downward. And all of those errors, everyone, becomes 10 times more dramatic, 10 times more valuable, and 10 times more shocking when the coin is untouched, brilliant, crisp, and uncirculated. The kind of coin that still shines with that Denver Mint flash. Let's walk through the values carefully, because this is where jaws start to drop. A normal uncirculated Ohio D quarter. You're looking at a coin worth maybe a few bucks. Nice, but common, a coin you'd slip into a holder and forget about. But the moment an error enters the picture, the numbers go wild. A small die crack, that's hundreds. A bold die break slicing through the Wright flyer. You're climbing into the 4-figure range. A clean, crisp double die error where the letters or the flyer itself appear shadowed. 5 figures, easy, but the real monsters. The coins that collectors whisper about, those are the uncirculated Ohio D error giants. Picture a huge die cut covering part of the state outline, a raised mountain of metal where a chunk of the die actually fell off. Those coins sell for tens of thousands. Picture a dramatic off-center, double strike where the Wright flyer appears twice, one normal, one ghost-like, floating across the coin. That's the kind of error that blows past $70,000. $80,000, even higher. And then, there are the masterpieces. The once-in-a-lifetime, this shouldn't exist kinds of errors. The uncirculated triple strike, the massive retained cut with the design warped like liquid. The deeply doubled design that looks like the coin is vibrating. Those coins have crossed the $300,000 mark. Some have approached the mid-6-figure range in private sales that never even hit the public auction world. Those are the coins dealers whisper about behind closed doors. The ones that get transported in locked cases. The ones that make collectors skip a heartbeat the moment they see them. All of this, from a state quarter, a coin millions of Americans touched. A coin people used to buy ice cream, parking time, vending machine snacks. A coin that slipped in and out of pockets, drawers, and ashtrays across the country. A coin so ordinary, most folks never saw its hidden potential. And here's the part that hits hardest for the people watching, especially for the folks in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who grew up checking their change each night. You still remember the thrill, that little moment of excitement when you'd find a shiny new state quarter. And now, looking back, you realize one of those shiny coins could have been a 6-figure rarity. And maybe, just maybe, one still is, because uncirculated coins don't always come from collectors. Sometimes someone tossed one in a drawer by accident. Sometimes a kid stuck it in a piggy bank. Sometimes a roll sat in a closet for 20 years, never opened, and inside those rolls, the rarest mistakes in U.S. minting history might still be waiting. Your uncirculated 2000 to Ohio D quarter stands at the center of that mystery. You're holding a piece of American aviation history, paired with one of the most chaotic, error-filled minting periods of the early 2000s. A combination that can turn a simple, shiny quarter into a show-stopping miracle. And now, as we close out this entire Top 6 State Quarter series, it's worth taking a quiet moment. Think about how far we've traveled: 6 coins, 6 stories, 6 shockingly rare treasures hiding in plain sight. From the prairies to the coastlines, from cowboys to airplanes, from mistakes to miracles, and each coin, each humble little quarter, had the power to become something extraordinary, something worth more than cars, boats, vacations, or even homes. If there's one lesson these state quarters teach us, it's this: you never know what fortune is hiding right in your hands. So as we end this journey, keep your eyes open, keep searching. Keep checking those old rolls, jars, drawers, and forgotten boxes in the attic. Because somewhere out there, a life-changing treasure might be waiting, disguised as a simple 25-cent coin, and that is the magic of collecting.